All right, good morning. I'm Dustin Seaton, the Gifted and Talented Specialist at the Northwest Arkansas Education Service Cooperative. And with me, we have Carly Ginolis.
Hi, I'm the science specialist at the Northwest Arkansas Co-op.
And then we have our first Real World Wednesday speaker, Jenny Gammill. She's the K-5 STEM specialist. The Northwest Arkansas Education Service Cooperative, we serve all public school districts in Benton, Madison, and Washington counties in Northwest Arkansas. And we are located in Farmington. So welcome to the 9 o'clock hour of the Real World Wednesday guest speaker series. We hope that you will utilize the chat down at the bottom and the Q&A feature box if on your screen should you want to interact with today's speakers and make connections with what you're learning in the classroom to how it relates to careers in the real world. There's no need to worry about unmuting or fixing your video because we are utilizing the Zoom webinar feature. So you'll be fine just being you from wherever you are today. We encourage you to sit back, relax, and enjoy our guest speaker. So we are joined this hour with Miss Jenny Gammill. Jenny grew up in Central Arkansas and graduated from the Arkansas School for Math Sciences and the Arts, or ASMSA, which is located in Hot Springs, Arkansas. She studied biology at Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee, and then went on to teach middle school science in Cabot, Arkansas. While earning her master's degree in curriculum, she moved up to Northwest Arkansas to work at our co-op in Farmington as the science specialist. Then she left and went to go work for the Fayetteville Public Schools as their director of science and instructional technology. But thankfully, she came back to the co-op in 2017 and has loved helping teachers all across Northwest Arkansas with the integration of STEM into their classrooms. So please join me today in welcoming Miss Jenny Gammill. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
We're really excited that you're our first speaker for our Real World Wednesday because you connect the education side of things to all of the STEM concepts, not only because that's your job, I mean, that's literally in your title, but what first got you interested in the profession?
Yeah, so I came into the profession in kind of a roundabout way, I guess. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll do this periodically and show a few photos. Let's see. So you should be able to see my iPhotos. Are you seeing that right now? Yep, great. So I grew up, like Dustin said, in Central Arkansas. I grew up in a really small town, which maybe some of you that are joined us today are from one of our smaller towns in Northwest Arkansas. But I grew up in Carlisle. I saw this water tower from our front yard. And there were about 2,200 people living in the great city of Carlisle at the time that I was there. There were probably about somewhere between 75 and 85 kids in my class. And while growing up in Carlisle, I did have access to a lot of opportunities that my parents provided me. And they also just gave me an opportunity to really just kind of explore and tinker and do hands-on stuff as much as I wanted. So for example, I grew up in the time of VCRs and I taught myself how to program VCRs. So, we didn't have DVRs. We recorded everything on cassette tapes. And so I would do things like that. I would program watches. I love to just tinker with things and figure things out. I guess I was maybe sort of a tomboy. I loved, it's crazy, but I had something that was very similar to this. Loved playing with race cars and building racetracks. And so I think that just a lot of those different hands-on things with science and engineering, which was far before anyone was ever talking about STEM, but really did interest me. I've shared with Dustin and a couple of other people that in the summers, starting around maybe first, second grade, I would go to the University of Arkansas at Little Rock in the summers to a gifted and talented program that they had called Sluffy. and we could choose the courses that we wanted to do. And I did things like inventions and inventors, the human body. We specifically studied the brain. I still remember getting to go and see a real brain at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. So I don't know, I just got to really pursue my passions as a young child with regards to science and engineering. And so I think that did help lead me into this profession.
I actually
That's
had
awesome.
that same Timex watch at one point.
I did
I
too.
could have programmed it for you, Dustin. I could have programmed it for you.
That's awesome.
So Jenny, it sounds like you just kind of were a natural, hands-on type kid. What made you really want to pursue a career in STEM education or in education in general?
Yeah, so I'll take you back to my photos again for a second. So as Dustin mentioned earlier, I did go to the Arkansas School for Math and Sciences, and I'll tell you how I got there. My oldest sister is 2 years older than me. And when she was in her 7th and 8th grade years of high school or junior high school, she was already taking the most advanced courses that they offered in science and math at Carlisle at the time. And so my parents started looking for what were the options to take more advanced courses. You couldn't just like zoom into a virtual course at a college that wasn't available. There were things called correspondence courses where you would get the materials sent to you from the university, but that was a lot of trouble. We looked at driving back and forth to Little Rock every day for her to go to a private school there. And my parents just started thinking about what was she going to do? What were myself and my 2 younger sisters going to do? And so they somehow got in. My dad worked closely with some people at the state level in his work as an attorney. And so they really started pushing for getting an Arkansas school, getting a school for math and sciences in our state. And they worked hard with a group of parents to visit other math and science schools across the nation. And so they were really instrumental in getting this school in our state. So that is probably a drone shot of the school. This is what the front of the school looks like now. It's in an old hospital. And so so my older sister went and she graduated from there, and I also went to this school, and it really just changed my just love for how I learned science and math. So I had loved science and math growing up, but how it was taught to me at this school, I really loved it. And it made me want to pursue a degree in the sciences. And so as a result, I went to this college, Rhodes College, which, fun fact, our latest Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, graduated from Rhodes. So I have that connection now. But the reason why I went to Rhodes is because it had such a high acceptance rate into medical school. And so that was the plan: get a degree in the sciences and then go to medical school. And while there, my older sister was finishing up her degree, at becoming a doctor. And just through a lot of conversations, I realized that this is just not what I wanted to pursue for my life. And so I continued on with graduating with a degree in the sciences, but I realized that instead of becoming a doctor, I wanted to raise up kids in the classroom that would become doctors, because you can't have any doctors without great teachers. So that is how I, changed streams and am now in the world of education.
If you don't mind, go back to the picture of ASMSA.
Sure.
Because interestingly, on Tuesday night, we actually are hosting a free webinar on ASMSA for interested students, because it is, my understanding, it is a boarding school for juniors and seniors. Is that correct?
That's correct. You apply as a sophomore and you join with kids from all over the state of Arkansas. You live there for 2 years, but of course you can go home on the weekends, and you don't stay there during the summer. And what's great about this is you are getting to interact with kids from all over the state of Arkansas, and the majority of them are from small towns like we were, because of not having access to the types of courses that maybe you're going to get at a Springdale High or a Fayetteville High, or a Little Rock Central. And so that's, why it's such a great opportunity for kids from smaller towns, but there are kids from larger towns that come as well. And they changed the name. Fun fact too, went to the Arkansas School for Math and Sciences. They've since added "and the arts," because the arts is such a strong component, and that's why so many schools and just organizations have switched from STEM to STEAM, because the arts are such an integral part to science and math.
Yeah, that's a great tie-in to the STEAM week this week, being
Yeah.
the science, technology, engineering, math, and the arts. And I love that ASMSA added the arts, because I do think that adds to the different brain and the creativity side of the technology and sciences. So that's really cool. How was it being a student in your junior and senior year, living away from your family? Like most high school experiences, you're go in the band, or you're in the football program, or involved with your local town, but you're living in Hot Springs several hours away from your hometown. How was that
You
high school
know,
experience?
it was, first of all, I got to see my sister, go through what that was like. And because she was in the first class, there were a lot of challenges that they had. I mean, this was the first um, time that Arkansas had ever done something like this as a charter school. And so they had to, figure out some things. But so getting to experience it through her probably helped me. But I will say my parents were very supportive, and not that they wanted to just push us out of the house, but they realized that this was such a great opportunity for us, especially because at the time the governor's scholarship was not available for students living in our state. And so because I probably would have stayed in Arkansas and gone to the University of Arkansas if that had been the case. But both she and I, and actually she went to Duke University, my younger sister went to Georgetown University, and my baby sister went to Baylor University. So we all went to out-of-state colleges, and just my parents knew that that's what we wanted to do, and that this was the best opportunity for us to get access to scholarship money. But it was, you know, like I said, they had given us so many opportunities to do things before going to this school that I wasn't scared about leaving home. And my dad served as board president for a number of years, and so I would see him fairly often when they would come over to Hot Springs. So, and I could go home on the weekends. One of my best friends from Carlisle actually went to school there my senior year, and then another girl from Carlisle joined us our junior year. And so I had those connections, but also I just had some amazing teachers there that really developed strong relationships with us as students, and I felt very, very cared for.
So kind of piggybacking off what you said, you went to Rhodes College and you thought you were going into the medical field based off of your interest and experience. So I hear that a lot with college kids. They go into pre-med, they expect that they're going to major in a pre-med focus, but they didn't realize how broad and vast the STEM field is. And so what recommendations would you have for students that are interested in pursuing a STEM education or a STEAM education career focus in terms of discovering how broad and vast the options are?
Yeah, and they've become so much more broad and vast, even because I graduated from high school in 1997, and then in from college in 2001. And since that time, the opportunities in STEM have just exploded. They're really, I mean, there were opportunities for us. I looked at becoming a pharmaceutical sales rep. That was I looked at working in child life services at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital or St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis. So those were some of the other options I explored. But at the time, there just weren't a lot, especially for females. But now, because there are so many, my best advice is to really go into college with, an open mind, unless you know that you are just really called to be a doctor or whatever it is that you think you want to be. But just being very open and I will say what served me best, I went to the Arkansas School for Math and Sciences because of my love for science and math. But what they taught me so well was how to write. And I learned more about writing in my junior and senior year that really, catapulted me, honestly. And I say this humbly, but just because I learned how to, above many of my peers at Rhodes College that came from huge schools in Texas and Atlanta, in Georgia and Florida. And I actually, when I was in my master's degree, I edited a lot of people's papers for them because that is what was just so. I say if you can take the skill of writing, if that's something that you can learn, that will help you, I think, more than a lot of things.
And I've actually gotten to benefit from Jenny's writing skills because sometimes I have a big idea about something, but I just don't have a way of putting it into words in this professional way. So I'll kind of shoot it to Jenny and I'll say, hey, this is what I'm trying to say. And then Jenny can just put it in so beautifully and well-spoken. And it does come across so much better. I think that's helped. I know it's helped me just having Jenny as my good writing partner there. She does all of the hard work with that. And so something I would always tell kids when I was in the classroom, if we were talking about careers, was that, when you are looking at your adult life, you spend the majority of your adult life working. And so we can pursue careers, that are going to make us wealthy or pursue careers that make us happy, or maybe hopefully both. But hopefully we pursue careers that just give us an excitement for life or just genuinely make us happy to be doing what we're doing. And so what excites you about STEAM and just being able to share your love for STEAM with others?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to share my screen again and show you. It's a quote that has just really stuck out to me. Let's see if you're seeing this now, or are you seeing this quote? Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
We're seeing the Zoom screen.
You're seeing the Zoom screen. Okay, let's try this again.
It happens to the best of us.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
How about that?
Yep.
So, here's the deal. I don't believe in this quote, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Because what I believe is that we were made, that one of the reasons we were created is to work, that work gives us fulfillment. And I think that everyone can find something that they love to do in life and do that as a career. But what I've learned is that you have to take the bad with the good. Like there are going to be some aspects of your work that are not going to be as enjoyable and that you have to just learn to embrace those as well. For example, Carly and Dustin, but definitely Carly and I have to attend some meetings that just are honestly feel useless. And we have to do paperwork that is just to check the box. But as a result of doing those things, I also get to invest my time and energy into things that I do love, especially with the aspects to STEAM. And, that is giving kids an opportunity to find things that they're excited about. I think that math and literacy, and math is part of STEM, but that writing and reading are so important. But the hands-on that comes through STEAM opportunities are so valuable to kids. And I feel like that every kid can find something that they love to do with that. So that's really where what excites me about STEAM is giving kids an opportunity to explore things that they love.
I think that's a great point too, because we remember being in junior high and high school, like some of our attendees that may be watching, even middle school, and thinking, why are we doing this? This seems like a waste of our time. But there is some method in the madness. Even those meetings that you say seem pointless and time, wasting, they had an objective that was maybe bringing everybody together. Maybe it was getting on the same page, or reiterating kind of a common objective. But whatever the purpose being, I know some of our attendees are probably feeling like, yeah, we understand that even as kids, but not every job is perfect. Not every school is perfect. We've had good teachers, we've had bad teachers, we've had good bosses, we've had bad bosses. So I think that's a really good point, Jeannie. So let me ask you this then: what's a typical day in your job? Like, what can we say a STEM specialist at the co-op looks like on an average day?
And that's one of the things that I do love about my work is there really isn't a typical day. And let's put COVID times aside and say, well, it's 2019. So, it's because we serve such a large number of schools in our area, and we have a large, some co-ops, the actual size of the co-op is not as how big it is not, as nearly as large as what Northwest Arkansas serves. And so, some days I'm driving from working with a teacher at Greenland to picking up supplies at the University of Arkansas, and then taking those out to Siloam Springs or to Huntsville. Some days I am training teachers in person. We've got teachers that are coming to the co-op, and I'm doing a day-long training for them, probably alongside Carly, depending on what we're talking about. Some days I'm teaching a lesson in classes, or I'm taking the Codapillars and the Ozobots out, and groups of students are coming in and getting to explore with those. So every day is different. There are weeks where I may be in the office 4 out of 5 days. Those are not my favorite weeks, because I do like to be out there, just because I like to be very hands-on and present with teachers. My motto is to try to stay just very close to the classroom, so that I don't lose sight of why I do what I do and what hardships I know that teachers are facing on a daily basis. It really keeps me connected to them. And so I fully believe that the more that I'm out there, the better connected I can be.
Yeah, and that's a hard part, I think, in our jobs is staying connected to the classrooms, especially this year. This year is a challenge, just across the board with students and with teachers, and schools in general. Just I couldn't imagine having to make those quick decisions like teachers are. So teachers that are listening, we applaud you. Students, we applaud you too. We totally understand. We sympathize. I can't say that we understand because we're not in it, but y'all are awesome. So even not considering COVID though, what would you say is the most challenging part of our job? And then in addition to that, what do you think is the most rewarding piece of this as well?
Well, and I'll say this, I don't know what age groups are on this, but probably the most challenging aspect of my work is that because I work with elementary schools, and that the focus is very much literacy. It's not even math, unfortunately, but it is getting kids to read, which is understandable. That it is just really helping teachers, administrators, school districts understand the importance of giving students access to opportunities in STEM beginning in pre-K. And that is going to, that yes, the time spent on literacy is important. Kids, students being able to read by the time that they leave third grade is essential, but that it is the hands-on, it's the, playing with the robots. And I say playing because it is, but it's also building, skills that we can't even see right now. It's the collaborative opportunities that you have when you're working with a hands-on activity, that is important. And it's just a really challenging part of our job right now in trying to find time for teachers to be able to teach in the STEM areas.
Yeah, and I know we have some teachers that have signed in with their students in class, and I would remind, if any kid or teacher would like to ask questions to Ms. Gammill, feel free to utilize the chat box or the Q&A box. We'll stop asking our questions and ask yours if you'll have any pertinent or interesting questions. So COVID has obviously affected us in more ways than one. I think we're all going to have some form of PTSD when this is all over. How has COVID specifically affected your job as a STEM specialist at the co-op?
Yeah, so it's just not, we don't have teachers utilizing we have a number, let me back up, we have a number of resources that we have at the co-op, Autobots, the little robots, sets of circuit blocks and bloxels and hands-on science equipment. And because of COVID, those resources aren't being utilized as much. So we're not taking those out there. I'm not teaching as much in classrooms because understandably districts want to limit the number of people that are coming into their buildings. We're doing a lot more. This is, 2 years ago, I was rarely, I won't say never, that's a strong word. I was rarely having meetings virtually. So a lot of this, I'm not traveling to the central part of, to central Arkansas for meetings with specialists across the state. A lot of the work that I do at the state level is done virtually now. In fact, all of it is. So that's probably the biggest changes, is the travel and just more trying to find ways to support teachers that are different than how we used to do it.
I know, because schools aren't allowing us necessarily to come in, because if we go from school district to school district, we could be carrying the virus with us. So I know that's been a big change. Not only just wearing masks and stuff, but a lot of what you do, I've seen at the co-op, is very hands-on.
Yeah.
And so having that, cleaning the surfaces of all the materials that kids are used to, that's kind of been put on hold until they get a hold of what they're doing in the regular classroom and the online instruction and so forth. So I know it's got to be tough on you, because I know you love being around kids and teachers.
I do. Yeah, it's been, it's something that I do on the weekends that I've done is, so I will say that I left education for 2 years. This will lead me into something else. I'll share my screen in just a second. I left education for a couple of years, and I'll tell you, if you're a student, you'll change careers a lot of time, a number of times in your life. I will say that I had two parents, yes, I just had two parents, but both of my parents stayed. Well, my dad specifically became an attorney at the age of, 20, probably 25, and practiced law for he practiced law for 43 years. And that's very rare for someone to stay in a career like that. Now, he also picked up hobby farming on the side and has about 3,000 acres now of farmland and does that. But, he stayed in his same career, and I've changed careers, multiple, changed not careers, but changed jobs multiple times. And so I left Fayetteville schools for a couple of years and actually went into children's ministry. So I still do children's ministry on the weekends. I lead worship at the church where I serve. And also because I needed to bring in a little bit of extra income. Money's not everything, but you do need enough to live on. And that was kind of a stretch from the job that I was in to going into full-time ministry. And so I actually started a little side business called Cookies by Jenny. And so, as you know, the Christmas season is coming up soon. So this is, let's see, here we are. Are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I started baking. And in the 2 years that I was in ministry, full-time ministry, I iced and decorated somewhere around 12,000 cookies. So a lot of cookies. This is what they first started looking like. And so you can see this was my first Christmas that I did this I had been baking for years for family and friends just on the side. But I had a friend that convinced me to start selling them. And my first Christmas, this is what they looked like. And, just through hours of really honestly learning the science behind baking and icing and how, of course, temperature and humidity and my oven and just I could tell you, I could talk about baking for hours. I won't bore you with that, but this is what my cookies look like now. And if you're familiar with Christmas Vacation, I've done these a couple of times. And then I have 4 nieces and nephews, and they always get little Santas. So you can see that, I did actually become more skilled at it through practice. But I share that because I've had people say, well, you should open a storefront in Fayetteville and sell your cookies. And it's a passion and it's something that I get to do on the side and I love it, but I want to continue to love it. And I didn't want it to become a job. I wanted to be the one to continue to ice and to bake and ice my cookies and not to turn that over to someone else so that I could run a business. So I do it on the side and I still love it. But I got to that in a roundabout way. So I still get to interact with kids at church some, but not, because of COVID, I don't get to lead worship right now. So anyway, that's where I got to that, but I do miss kids.
I think it's a natural way to get to that though, because it comes back to doing what you love.
Yeah.
And, it's so easy, especially when we're younger, to think, I love baking. How am I going to make a profit? How am I going to make a lot of money baking? But like you said, it turns into less of you doing what you love, and then you're running a business.
Exactly.
And it just, you lose that passion or the piece that you love about it. And so I think that's an awesome story. It's so relatable to so many people. And it also just goes to show just how connected science and math and art and technology, how it's all there and it's so organically there.
Well, and right. And like with the baking, I've learned, just what I do with Google Sheets and how I calculate the number of, the cost of my ingredients. And of course, there's programs for this now that because I'm not like really in this for a full-time business, I'm not going to invest money in them. So, I use Google Sheets to calculate how much I'm going to, profits and the amount of ingredients that I need to buy at Sam's, and also just how many of each shape I need to bake when I'm baking 100 dozen at a time, which is what I typically do around Christmas, not this year. But so it is so important to get those base skills while you are in school with science and math and writing and reading. They've served me very well in my years.
Yeah. And so with STEM and STEAM in general, I mean, I feel like just in the short amount of time from when I was in middle school and junior high until now as an adult, things have changed dramatically. I mean, we didn't have iPhones or
No,
anything like that when I
no.
was younger.
I had a
And so
bag phone. I had a bag phone in
Oh,
my
yeah.
car.
And so, as educators, we've shifted into, needing to teach kids how to problem solve, and we're needing to remember we're preparing them for careers that do not exist yet. And we have no way of even knowing what those careers will be. So what is something that you wish that you would have known maybe about STEM or STEAM, or even education that you didn't know in middle school or junior high?
I think one of the things that some advice I would give is, one, don't be afraid to be you. I grew up in a small town, and it was all about being popular and being a cheerleader, and I was a cheerleader, but I was afraid to be smart in science and math. And kind of shied away from that, although I had my parents pushing me and make all A's and get the 4.0 grade average GPA and all of those things. But I really wish that I had just embraced really my love for science and math at an earlier age. I didn't really do that. I mean, I did, but it just felt like it was more secretive, because it just wasn't cool to be smart in those things. And so that, and also just really working well with others. That is so important. I mean, that, Carly and I have such a great relationship and partner so well together. And all of us at the co-op really, I feel like, work well together. And just realizing that your ideas are not always the best ideas. In fact, most of the time they're not the best idea, because everybody brings, different gifts and skill sets to the table. And I've just learned, I know Carly is the master of fun, and she is great at, first of all, she's going to probably kill me after this for just heaping all this praise on her, but it's so true. I've just really learned her strengths. I know that I can bake some cookies and ice them, but I can't create a flyer to save my life. And so anything where we are having to advertise maybe something that we're going to do at the co-op, it's all on Carly. She's our queen of fun. And so, there are skill sets that Dustin has, and that the math specialists in our office have, and just really learning to just let everyone shine where they need to shine, step back where you need to step back, but then also embracing the things that you're good at. And so, I would just tell you to really, find what you're good at and embrace it.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And what I really love about your presentation today, Jenny, is that you are passionate about this, but you also have a lot of passions or a lot of things that you're excited about, like going into baking or going into ministry. We talked before we started about running. Running is a passion of yours. And I think that's really cool. And I wish I would have known that in middle school or junior high, that someone would have said, find your passion, find something that you want to really be good at and that excites you, because that's what it's about. So
It is.
I know we're coming to the end of our session, but I have one last question. If there are not any other questions from the panelists or from the attendees, do you have any good stories in STEAM education that you'd like to share? Any kind of fun anecdotes that you've learned or experienced throughout your time in STEAM education?
Well, I will tell you probably one of my just really super fun memories is, if you've not seen it, you need to watch OK Go, which is OK Go's video, their chain reaction video. And I do a lot of partnership work with the Amazium. I spent a lot of time up there. I've attended their Maker Boot Camp in the summer. I've attended their Making Spaces program that's held throughout the year. I went to Pittsburgh with them and got to see what was happening in that part of the country around STEAM education and creating a maker system, just what we call an ecosystem, a makerspace ecosystem. I have been to California, to the city of Berkeley, and presented at a conference out there, and then attended a week-long program that they held there. So I've done a lot of partnership work with them, and we, as a group of people that were doing this camp for the first time, this maker boot camp, we actually made a chain reaction machine, and it filled 2 rooms, and every group, this is again going back to group work, every group brought their own little piece to the big chain reaction, and then we set it off, and it was just so fun to get to see that take place. And that goes back to just when I was little, I loved to set up dominoes and let them fall down, and just create little things that balls could move through. And just now some of the STEM toys that we didn't have, I was kind of making my own back, and I should have marketed those. I could be rich now. Just kidding. But yeah, so that's one of the most, I loved doing that. It was so fun.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Jenny. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions from any of our attendees, I know, like I said, several teachers are broadcasting us in their classroom right now. We hope that everyone's being safe and getting ready for the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. But Jenny, thank you very much for giving us your time this morning and sharing your experience in STEAM education. We are going to take a quick break before we come in at the 10 o'clock hour for our next speaker, Vince Sayrath, a thermal product engineer at Eagle Picture Technology. So, all right. Thank you very much
for having me.
I'll see you later.
Guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.